Wayne slowly explained. Long ago, when this place was still inhabited by Native Americans, there was once a legendary warrior who used the night dagger to defend the land from invading tribes, killing tens of thousands on his own. All of the leaders who had been listening couldn't help but gasp when they heard him say that. Although the legend sounded overly exaggerated, no one dared to doubt its authenticity since it came from Wayne's mouth. Whether it was in terms of experience or knowledge, he was second to none. Wouldn't it be unfair to use a weapon like that during the competition? It's like using a cheat code to win. The dean of the Northern Institute for Natural Healing, Jeffrey Bowie, suddenly objected. What's the matter with Jeffrey? He's probably just afraid to lose, Harley Shepard thought to himself as he gave Jeffrey a stern look. Nonsense. Let him use the competition as a chance to learn and develop. Besides, it would be wrong for us to hold back greatness. We could be witnessing another legend in the making. Wayne beamed with joy. However, the others couldn't help but feel uneasy about this, and their unhappiness showed on their faces. Kevin had already shown so much promise. If everything Wayne said came true, then the sky would be the limit for his prodigy. More importantly, he was a student of the School for the Healing Arts. Given the honor and prestige of taking someone like Kevin under their wing, everyone knew that Wayne and Harley would do their best to keep him in their school. And whoever Kevin chose to align with later on would have massive ramifications for everyone else. After a few minutes, Kevin had already returned to a seat in the stands. Along the way, everyone graciously made way for him either out of fear or respect. Even Mike, Lionel, and Luther couldn't say a word to him. Thank you, Kevin. Penny had a teary-eyed look. Instead of thanking me verbally, why don't you give me a massage? That Clarissa is really strong, so my shoulders are pretty sore, Kevin teased as he sat down. If Kevin had said these words in the past, it definitely would have drawn a lot of ridicule. But now, who would dare argue with him? Let me do it. Mackenzie suddenly stood up and volunteered. She quickly started massaging Kevin's shoulders in front of everyone. Don't worry. Since you and your grandfather are both from the Myriads, I won't stop fighting until I win this competition and save him, Kevin reassured her. Thank you. Mackenzie remembered that she had snapped at Kevin earlier and wanted to make it up to him with this small gesture. Suddenly, Dalton slapped Kevin's arms a few times with some force. What did you do that for? I was just trying to relax. Kevin raised his eyebrows in surprise. Don't let it look like you're enjoying yourself too much. Remember, Lily is right over there. Dalton lectured him earnestly as he pointed to where Kevin's wife was sitting. Kevin was stunned when he heard that. He'd forgotten how their class was seated very close to Lily's. And when he slowly turned to check on her, he could feel his wife looking at him as if she was about to eat him alive. Lily, don't get the wrong idea. Kevin immediately jumped from his seat and quickly ran over to explain himself. This action immediately changed everyone's view of Kevin once again. Tough guy one minute, unfaithful husband the next. Turns out he's still a useless son-in-law after all. I can't believe you. You win one fight and now you think you're all that, huh? What's worse is that you're cheating on me right in front of everyone. Why don't you go back to your lover? Lily was fuming. Lily, listen to me. It's not what you think it is. Kevin was so anxious that the veins on his forehead were about to pop out. At the moment, it seemed that his own wife was a much scarier opponent than Clarissa. I don't know why I keep trusting you back, but I'll let it slide for now, Lily sighed. She didn't know why she kept running into these types of situations with Kevin. Still, he had always been good to her, so she always gave him the benefit of the doubt and stuck with him. Then Lily reached out and hugged Kevin's waist. I'm glad you won and that you're safe, but the following rounds will even be more dangerous. You must be careful. Hearing this, Kevin's heart suddenly calmed down. Don't worry, Lily. I'll be fine. Suddenly, everyone heard a loud voice. The first round of the competition has officially ended. For those who have advanced, I shall now announce the matchups for the second round. Central Alternative Healing Academy's Clarissa Pratt versus Union Sophia Lewis. Southeast School for Natural Medicine's Clyde Davis versus the Healing Arts School's Kevin Williams.
Lily, it's time for me to go back to the martial arts arena. Wait for me after the competition ends in the afternoon.
Kevin reluctantly let go of Lily.
There were less than 10 minutes left before the contestants' rest time ended.
Thus, Kevin had to make the most of it in order to regain his peak condition.
Many people understood that today's highlight would be the last round of the competition.
The first round was just a warm-up for the stronger contestants who would then start facing each other in the succeeding rounds.
Kevin, come over here.
Professor Murdoch waved her hand with a solemn expression.
Sure. What's up, Professor Murdoch?
Kevin walked up and said with a smile. Professor Murdoch thought for a while as she carefully chose her words.
You did a great job earlier, but you can now forfeit this next matchup.
What? I thought you wanted me to win this whole thing. Is Clyde too strong for me? Kevin asked in confusion. Just as Professor Murdoch was about to reply, Mike suddenly stood up and laughed loudly. Since Professor Murdoch asked you to give up, you'd better listen to her. She doesn't want you to embarrass our class. The reason he had the confidence to start making fun of him again was all because he had overheard his exchange with Lily earlier. He believed that no matter how strong Kevin had seemed during his battle with Clarissa, at the end of the day he was still a useless son-in-law who answered to his wife. However, Kevin didn't pay any attention to Mike and asked Professor Murdoch again. Why are you making me quit all of a sudden?
Well, Kevin, it's because Clyde is ranked third among all the contestants from the top 10 organizations. Hardened by years of intense training, he's mastered the iron wall technique, which allows him to endure the most unimaginable levels of physical pain. Some claim he's even learned to find enjoyment in it, and he seeks to inflict the same amount of damage when he tortures his opponents. Therefore, for the sake of safety, it would be better for you to give up.
Professor Murdoch cautioned him. She was afraid that if Kevin wasn't careful, he might end up getting permanently disabled or suffer an agonizing death at Clyde's hands. What kind of person enjoys pain? Kevin wondered. Still, he was intrigued by the idea of facing such an enigmatic opponent. Wayne Ford noticed Kevin wielding the legendary Night Dagger, and the thought of having such a special student train at the Healing Arts School excited him. However, the other leaders of the top 10 organizations felt uneasy about this. Back at his seat, no one dared to speak ill of Kevin. However, after apologizing to Lily for enjoying Mackenzie's massage, the others started mocking him again. Just then, the Southeast School for Natural Medicine's Clyde Davis was announced as his next opponent. Ranked third overall, Clyde had mastered the iron wall technique, making him practically immune to extreme pain. Fearing for Kevin's safety, Professor Murdoch encouraged him to forfeit. However, Kevin was intrigued. Don't worry, Professor Murdoch. I'm sure I can handle it, Kevin reassured her as he continued to walk towards the resting area of the martial arts arena. The next few minutes of rest time passed by very quickly. When Kevin slowly reopened his eyes, the host picked up the microphone. The second round battles are about to begin. Remember, we must all work together to eliminate evil in the future. So I hope that all remaining contestants will do their best for the greater good. Almost as soon as the MC's voice trailed off, dozens of voices could be heard murmuring from the stands at the same time. A blonde-haired man had entered the green arena with his hands behind his back. Not only did he have a tall and sturdy build, but he also wore a confident and determined gaze. As he walked, one couldn't help but feel a wave of masculine air flowing with every step he took. This person was none other than Clyde Davis. Due to his outstanding performance in the first round, he immediately attracted the praises of many women.
Clyde is so handsome, someone gushed to her friend.
I love you, Clyde,
another woman cheered. Who wouldn't love such a strong and handsome person? Compared to the endless adoration that Clyde received, Kevin was continuously booed and jeered as he slowly walked towards the green arena.
Look at that piece of... I can't believe he actually entered the arena. He must be trembling in fear, Mike mocked. He's just a useless son-in-law. I'm sure Clyde can kill him in an instant. His wife will probably be glad to watch him. Luther sneered.
He didn't even win convincingly in the first round, just barely getting by with a draw. What a disgrace to Clyde. Lionel shook his head with disapproval. Amidst the unrelenting ridicule from the crowd, Wayne Ford intently observed how Kevin would react.
I'm impressed. Kevin doesn't seem to be affected by what everyone else is saying about him. His level of composure is not something that ordinary people can compare with.
Wayne noted with great praise. Just then, Renee Silver interrupted him. Wayne, don't be fooled by his appearance. Perhaps you still don't know? Kevin is related to the powerful Williams family in New York City. A few years ago, he colluded with outsiders to move his family's funds. And after his relatives caught this, he was effectively kicked out of the Williams family. With everyone listening closely, Renee continued. After that, he went to Chicago and became the good-for-nothing son-in-law of the Jones family that we all know. Not long ago, he paid a visit to the Williams family household and caused a huge ruckus at his cousin's wedding, causing his fiancée's family to cancel the wedding in a fit of anger. Before anyone else could comment, Renee kept going. Not long after, Kevin also brought some people to New York, injuring many Williams family members. And just a few days ago, he was unwilling to exchange blood to save his grandfather at the hospital, causing Randall Williams' untimely death. May his soul rest in peace. Since Renee was the only acquaintance of the Williams family amongst them, nobody could refute her version of things. Thus, her words immediately caused many of the top leaders on the platform to start discussing amongst themselves. I initially thought he was kind after he spared Clarissa's life, but I was wrong. I would rather tear down 10 buildings than break a marriage, destroy my own family, and kill my grandfather. Paul Vaughn was furious. I knew he was a piece of the moment I met him. When I was an instructor at the Healing Art School, he beat me up for no good reason. I can't stand someone with no morals, Frank Carter retorted. He had already become a thorn in the side of most of the top leaders who were watching. They were initially worried that they wouldn't be able to properly deal with him later on. Now that they heard so many awful things about Kevin, how could they let go of such a good opportunity to get rid of him and keep the Healing Art School from becoming a powerful threat? Upon hearing all of this, Renee looked at Ariana Titus and smiled. It seemed that their plan to have the other top leaders turn on Kevin had worked. Meanwhile, both Wayne and Harley Shepard took a deep breath without saying anything as they watched Kevin enter the green arena. They knew what Renee was trying to do, and they weren't falling for her tricks. To think, I almost offered him a spot in the Herbalist Society. No matter what, our organization will have to kill him, Nadia coldly remarked. For a moment, everyone on the platform had their eyes on her. While they all had the same thing in mind, no one else dared to admit it out loud. Nadia continued, Isn't that what we're all thinking? Once Kevin fully develops his strength and skills, he'll turn into everyone's enemy. It's better to eliminate him sooner than later before he becomes too powerful to handle. No matter how strong the Herbalist Society is, you can't ignore the terms of our peace treaty, can you? We can't harm students from any of our affiliated schools and organizations, Paul reminded her. He can easily be expelled from the Healing Arts School. That is, if Wayne agrees to do the right thing for our greater good. Besides, I'm sure the Herbalist Society's leader will agree once I tell him about Kevin. If you have any doubts, go and tell him yourself. Although Nadia appeared calm, cool, and collected, the implications behind her words were too shocking. Nadia knew that while the other leaders could act tough in front of her, they wouldn't dare to speak in front of the leader of the Herbalist Society, a powerful and terrifying figure who is said to possess an unmatched knowledge of herbalism. At this point, Wayne had had enough of this. He suddenly slammed his seat's armrest to get everyone's attention. All right, that's enough speculation for now.
What's the point of arguing over something that can't be verified? Let's all shift our focus back to the competition.
All of the top leaders who were there immediately shut their mouths. Their facial expressions clearly showed their resentment, but they had no choice, knowing that Wayne could beat all of them if he wanted to. At that very moment, Kevin and Clyde were sizing each other up as they stood across from each other inside the green arena. Unlike the first round, there were no wooden poles that they had to stand on. However, Clyde preferred to fight unarmed, unlike Clarissa.
Don't listen to the crowd. I watched your battle against Clarissa. You were the clear winner, so you're definitely qualified to be my opponent.
Clyde smiled. This guy doesn't seem so bad after all, Kevin thought to himself. However, just as Kevin was about to reply, Clyde quickly added,
"But you cannot defeat me."
Kevin didn't want to continue with this nonsense. "I admire your confidence, but there's no point in talking anymore. Let's fight." Soon after, Kevin could already feel that Clyde was starting to channel his inner strength. He knew that if this continued, Clyde would draw enough power to use the iron wall technique, which Professor Murdoch had previously warned him about. "I have to stop him." Kevin then took the initiative and attacked.
"Everyone, it looks like Kevin has decided to make the first move. Do you think he'll be able to seize the opportunity, or will he end up humiliating himself?"
The announcer posed the question to the crowd.
"He'll come just in time for me to punch him,"
Clyde shouted loudly, answering the host himself. As he saw Kevin rushing toward him, he stood his ground and immediately lowered his waist. When the two were about to collide, Clyde quickly threw out a punch at the last possible moment. A thunderous sound was heard across the venue as dust flew all over the arena. When the scene cleared, everyone in the audience cried out in surprise. They saw Clyde standing in the same spot without moving. Kevin, on the other hand, had stumbled a few steps back. He was struggling to regain his balance after receiving a powerful hook shot to his chin. Seeing this, the crowd began to cheer for Clyde once again. "Clyde is so powerful," an onlooker praised. "He'll surely defeat that piece of I hope he goes on to win the whole damn thing so that he can be the one to kill that old crook from the Myriads," another person shouted. Kevin violently coughed a few more times before composing himself and thinking about his next move. Clearly, he was vastly outmatched by Clyde in terms of raw strength at the moment. However, he now had a better idea as to how strong his punches needed to be.
"Not bad. You got guts," Clyde exclaimed.
Kevin took a deep breath to draw some inner strength. He then displayed a sudden burst of speed that shocked everyone as he appeared in front of Clyde in a flash. Clyde himself was caught off guard by this, and Kevin took the opportunity to punch him in the chest. However, he frowned when Clyde was unfazed by this. Kevin then raised his right leg and kicked Clyde right in the head. Still, this didn't cause any substantial damage. Shocked by this, Kevin punched again. This time, he hit Clyde in the abdomen with all his strength. Despite landing 3 strikes in a row, it was like hitting a wall to no avail. Kevin then realized that the iron wall technique had already been in effect this entire time, allowing Clyde to easily withstand his powerful attacks. Because of this, Kevin quickly retreated to the other end of the arena to increase the distance between the two before Clyde could land another punch. When the crowd saw Kevin's sorry state, many of them couldn't help but burst out laughing.
"Hey, don't stop. Your tickling feels really nice,"
Clyde sneered. "You cheated. You already used the iron wall technique even before our fight began." Kevin was really stumped. "What can I do against a man who can endure extreme pain?"
"If it'll make you feel any better, why don't you try using your weapon?"
Clyde mockingly challenged.
"Be my guest and hit me with everything you've got. Don't show me any mercy. I'll just stand here and see if you can hurt me today."
"If you say so." Kevin's eyes flashed. He then drew the Knight sword from behind his back. Apart from the Knight dagger, the Knight King had also given Kevin the cold arrow, or as he liked to call it, the Knight sword. However, it wasn't a practical weapon to walk around the streets with, as it would draw too much attention. Luckily, after Professor Murdoch had briefed him about Clyde, Kevin decided to bring it with him to the arena just in case it would come in handy. And since Clyde was so despicable, now seemed like a good time to try it out for the first time.
It can't be.
Wayne stood up from his chair as soon as he saw Kevin wielding the knight's sword. The other top leaders didn't ask Wayne about it this time. They could tell that the sword in Kevin's hand was special as well. In particular, Paul and Renee's eyes harbored a strong greed when they saw this. Both the Central Alternative Healing Academy and the Union Strength revolved around the use of bladed weapons. Because of this, they were sure that, when coupled with advanced strength and skills, whoever wielded Kevin's sword would gain access to unlimited power. Someone gave this sword to me before. He said that it was a rare and powerful weapon. However, I have never found a suitable opportunity to use it until now. Since you claim to be invulnerable to weapons, I shall test my sword on you today. Kevin held the sword's handle tightly with one hand, then slowly ran his fingers along its blade using the other. His voice was very loud, as if he was deliberately speaking to everyone in the stands. "What an arrogant piece of trash! How dare you use Clyde to test your sword?" An onlooker sneered. "Clyde, don't be afraid of him. He can't withstand a punch from you, so you'll definitely win." Another woman shouted to encourage him. However, Clyde suddenly became deathly serious. Although he didn't know how to use a sword, he never felt the need to use one, as he had always been very confident in his brute strength, coupled with his extremely high pain tolerance thanks to the iron wall technique. However, at the moment, he felt a slight sense of uneasiness as he gazed at the knight sword that Kevin was wielding. It didn't look like any regular sword that he'd encountered before. "Here I come," Kevin warned as he waved the knight sword with his right hand and started running towards Clyde as fast as he could. "You can't hurt me." Clyde raised his head and shouted towards the sky. Then he flexed all his muscles to brace himself for the sword's impact. Clyde Davis's iron wall technique had made him practically immune to Kevin's strikes. Clyde's taunting was the last straw, and Kevin drew the knight sword, which was another weapon the Night King had given him. However, it was impractical in everyday situations, so this was the first chance Kevin had seen to actually use it. Paul Vaughn and Renee Silver, whose organization specialized in bladed weapons, wanted the sword for themselves to unlock their unlimited power. Meanwhile, Clyde felt a hint of uneasiness as he braced himself for Kevin's attack. The Southeast School for Natural Medicine's martial arts training mainly focused on developing one's bodily strength under intense conditions. So with naturally ripped muscles and a toughened body, Clyde only needed to draw a small amount of strength to perform the iron wall technique as a defense. This allowed him to conserve his remaining strength for offense to deal explosive damage to his opponents. Since Clyde's school exclusively trained in hand-to-hand combat, the fighting style that he displayed during the first round was pretty straightforward. Nonetheless, his focused in minimalist offense was something beautiful to watch, making the crowd anticipate every move, which he performed efficiently and effectively. As the saying goes, less is more. However, the moment Kevin took out the knight sword and struck him, Clyde had encountered something that hadn't happened to him in all his years of training. Just as Clyde was ready to defend, the knight sword had already slashed through his body. Seeing this, many of the healing arts students were shocked. How could this be? Is there something wrong with Clyde? Lionel's eyes widened. What kind of trick did that useless son-in-law use? Mike's eyebrows furrowed. How can that be so strong? Can he actually beat Clyde? Luther expressed some doubt. In the arena, Clyde slowly looked down on his body. At worst, he would typically only suffer minor cuts and bruises from bladed weapons. However, since Kevin had caught him off guard, the knight's sword sliced a huge gash across his torso, causing him to bleed more than he was used to. Meanwhile, Kevin was gasping for breath. As it turns out, the knight sword was a lot heavier and more difficult to maneuver compared to the knight dagger. So even if he felt that he had only used up to about 60% of his body strength on his first strike,
It would take him quite some time to recover. No wonder the Night King said that I must only use the sword when absolutely necessary. It seems that I still need a lot more strength and training in the future, Kevin thought to himself.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.